Talk tips number 2, Marianne Hickman here. Now, today's talk tip is all about how to overcome the fear of public speaking, which is the #1 fear in the world. Isn't that crazy? If you Google it and you look it up and all the top fears in the world, there's like number 3 is death and number 2 is spiders. Richard has that one. Number 1, though, is public speaking. And I kind of get it. It's a vulnerable place to be. You're exposed to your audience in all your glory, especially if you're on stage in a physical room, public speaking. It takes guts to just raise your hand in an audience and take the microphone and do a share. You should see it. I'm in stages, I'm in rooms all the time with hundreds of people, and I'll ask for shares. And I've taught the audience that it's okay to share and that it's safe and we acknowledge you, but still, the person that gets up and takes the microphone in their hand, they're shaking and they hold it really tight to themselves like they're smelling a bouquet of flowers, and they get nervous because it's so vulnerable, especially if you don't have a written script. People use that as a security blanket most of the time, that written script, that pre-prepared talk, that pre-prepared presentation. But it's scary. It can be scary because you're open to the perception of judgment. You're open to, what if I mess up? You're open to, what if I get misquoted or misunderstood? That used to be a really big fear of mine that I had to take down and tackle in a public room, is what if people don't understand me correctly? And honestly, I'm still working on that one privately, like when I talk to Richard. What if we don't understand each other clearly? Because listen to this. I come from a background of pilots. Seriously, I've got a student pilot license myself, and communication is so critical when you're in that cockpit, when you're communicating to your co-pilot, when you're communicating to the tower, when you're communicating with other airplanes in the air. I'll never forget the time. I was flying down in a little tiny airplane, probably a 4 or 5-seater, and I'm flying down in the cockpit from the Provo airport all the way down to the St. George airport, which is probably, what, a 4-hour drive, maybe, depending on traffic. It's about only an hour flight, though, in this little tiny airplane. And the crazy thing was this. I'm in this airplane. I am not instrument certified. For those of you that are pilots, you might know that there are several different levels of certification. I'm not instrument certified, and my plane isn't equipped to do what it's about to be asked to do, which is fly through a cloud bank. What's crazy on this flight down to St. George is there's this canyon that you go through, and you don't really notice it when you're driving. But when you're up in the air, it gets a little bit different in terms of climate. So I've got a mountain on this side of me, a mountain on this side of me, on my left and right, and in the middle is a cloud bank. And so I've got 3 options. I can either go over it, I can go through it, or I can go under it. It's going on a bear walk, right? But I can't actually go through it because I don't have the visibility. I don't have the instruments, and I'm not trained how to do that. So I can go over it and I can go under it. Well, I've got to figure out if these options are safe, because if I go under it, I need to know if there's other aircraft around me. Same thing if I go over it. I also need to know how low the ceiling of this cloud bank is so that I don't get too low and fly too close to the ground and put myself in danger or somebody else in danger. So I'm radioing out and I'm putting out on the broadcast channel. And it's like, is anybody around? I'm not close to any airports right now. Can someone tell me what the lower ceiling of this cloud bank is? And I put it out there. And this cool thing happens. If any of you have flown before, you get like giddy like me. I get a response from a United flight that just happens to be in the area. And he radios to me. I'm like, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm here and I'm doing this thing and this is my predicament. Do you happen to know how low this cloud bank is? And the United pilot gets back to me and he talks to me. He's like, yep, you're safe. It's at this certain number of altitude and you're good. And I hung up and I was like, oh, I just talked to a really cool pilot. That's really cool. And I got all the information I needed to fly safely into this cloud bank because we could clearly communicate. Now, the biggest fear in public speaking is the inability to do so. And in our minds, if we don't communicate clearly, we get into this primal state of mind to where if I am misunderstood, catastrophe could happen. If I am misunderstood, somebody might die. At least that's what goes through my mind. And on the other side of that's one fear. But what about this other fear of, what if I have stuff in my teeth? Or what if I get shamed publicly? Or what if I just flumble and stutter over my words? I'm a public speaker for a living, and I still trip over my words. Here's how to overcome all of that, because I want you to eliminate it completely. And I'm about to drop a phrase on you that is going to feel like a smack in the face at first. But hear me out. Fear, nervousness, stage fright, in other words, all of that is nothing more than magnified selfishness. Now stay with me. Here's what I mean. Think about the words that go through your head when you're about to go on stage and you have stage fright. What if my clothes look weird? What if I trip on stage? What if I say something dumb? What if I mix up my words? What if I forget my lines? What if I? You're only thinking about yourself. Those are the worst kinds of presentations when the presenter is only thinking about them. The best presenters, the most transformational presenters in the world, all have this one thing in common. They think about the audience's needs first. And when you do that, it suddenly is no longer about you. Listen, you've already gotten to the stage. You've already earned the right to take that stage. You've already gotten a certain level of expertise, and you're at the forefront of the room. The audience, whether it's 3 people or 3,000 people, they're all here to listen to you. They're all here to get better. They're all here to become better versions of themselves, and they are counting on you to do that. Now, that doesn't have to come with all this pressure. What it actually means is that they're hoping you do well and that you are showing up to serve them. And that's the whole point of this. I am not here for me. I'm never on stage for me. I'm not starting this YouTube channel for me. I'm not running ads for me. I'm not running in Instagram or none of my social platforms. They're not for me, you guys. They're for you. Every single piece of content that I produce, every time I get on stage, it's not for me, it's for you if you're watching. Now, every time you get on stage, same thing, it's not for you. It's for your audience. It's to show up and serve them. Guess what? Your products, they do the same thing. Your products are not for you. You've already mastered it. You created the darn thing. Your products are for the people that need them most. And as long as you keep that in mind, you have no need to have stage fright. Fear is eliminated, and you can simply show up and serve. And here's the last thing I'll leave you with. Your audience, they are the rock stars of your presentation. They are the most important people in the room. And as long as they feel that from you, now you have a community, now you have a business, and you can get anywhere you want in this world if you help solve the problems of enough people. We'll see you next time on Talk Tips. Sure love you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later. Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you learned something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have this whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions because you are who I am here for. So last thing is I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you've got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people. And you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of 400 plus guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.